This is episode number 256 of the InnerFight podcast. Welcome to InnerFight podcast. My name is Marcus Smith.
My name is RowingWOD.
Big shout out to our show sponsors, Smith Street Paleo, all the paleo goodness over there at smithstreetpaleo.com. And remember, folks, massive incentive for you to get your hands on some of the goodies from Smith Street Paleo. All you have to do, go over to iTunes, rate the podcast, write a review. Doesn't matter how long or short it is, just write a review. Send us an email, winning@innerfight.com. Let us know you've done it, and we will get you a bag of goodies from Smith Street Paleo. It's that simple, and it tastes absolutely awesome. Thanks a lot to Smith Street Paleo for their support of the podcast. So today, Olympian Cameron Nichol, previous podcast guest. Mate, he's coached you before. Tell me about that experience.
Well, that was in Iceland on a training camp for 1 week. We rode every single day.
Really?
It was an amazing experience, and it definitely changed my whole rowing game. And I bet everyone who's ever been trained by Cameron feels the exact same way. The guy has a lot of knowledge. And
it's not only... some of the things I like about Cameron, he obviously has a lot of knowledge. A lot of people that have done a lot of sport have knowledge. I think there's two things I like. I think his psychological approach to things and also his delivery of things. Yeah. Were they things that you sort of noticed?
Yeah, definitely. Also just his whole background and knowing that he's an Olympic rower, he's a 2-time silver medalist. Yeah. Those things just gives him more charisma, and everything he says, you want to listen to it. You want to listen to it.
Easy. Mate, he's going to join us on Skype. We'll get him on the line and crack onto it, see what he's up to.
Yeah, excited to see what new projects he's working on. Alright, welcome back to the show. This time we have Cameron Nichol, 2-time world silver medalist and Olympic rower, competitive fitness athlete, and founder of RowingWOD. RowingWOD was founded in 2015 and created of his passion for movement, coaching, sports, and community. So today, Cameron's given up his career as a doctor to focus on the RowingWOD. RowingWOD produces different programs and training camps.
Cameron, on the line, all the way from sunny UK. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really good.
Mate, did you pay Dre for that intro? I never gave you that the first time you came on the show.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. There's only one caveat to that intro, which is I haven't given up full-time medicine. I'm taking some time away from it, and I'll still be a doctor. I'll always be a doctor. I'm just going to navigate my medical career.
Okay. I think that's the best point. That's the best part to kick off from, really, mate. What's going on? Last time we spoke to you, you're out here in Dubai. Now you're 100% RowingWOD. You just corrected Dre, as you should do. These young guys need to be kept in line, mate. You are still a doctor, but what's going on? What's the turn of events? Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the practical way it's all happened is that I started RowingWOD and a few other little projects up during my medical career. So whilst working as a doctor full time, days were just busy. So I was up at 4 a.m. working on the business from 4 a.m. till 5 a.m. Then going into the gym, smashing training for an hour, and then doing my full shift in hospital. And then sometimes that would reverse, so I'd then maybe train again, and then work on the business, and then pass out at like 11
Simple
o'clock at
days.
Yeah, and then I was using all my kind of weekends, and in hospital they call them 0 days. So if you work a weekend or you work a night shift, you get some sort of time off in lieu. But I was just using those on the business, traveling around, going to Dubai, going to Europe, going all over the place. And I just felt a bit tired, to be honest, after doing that for about 12 months. And it came to a decision similar to when I was rowing and doing full clinical medicine. I had to make a decision as to, do I want to do this full time and pursue it? And when I had that decision faced on me in 2008, I chose rowing, and I achieved some cool stuff there.
All in.
And yeah, the decision was here again. It was, continue to try and juggle these things at maybe a large personal cost, in the sense that I didn't have much energy and didn't see many friends or family. Or I could, take some time away from full-time medicine, still do some locum work, still practice as a doctor, just a lot more infrequently, almost like a freelancer, if that makes sense.
Right.
And then I'm basically gone all in the sense that I now own my schedule, and I can pursue RowingWOD and all the little sort of ventures that I have around that and health full-time. So,
Very cool.
So far it's the best decision I've made. The last 2 months have been very, very productive. We've done loads in 8 weeks, more so than I've done in the last 6 to 8 months. So far the decision's paying off, but it's exciting and scary at the same time.
So take us through, since you kind of took off some time from being a doctor, how has RowingWOD progressed since then? More programs, more training camps. What's the progression been like? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you naturally, Marcus can attest to this, you fall into many different roles. And so one of the things that I noticed last year is that I was saying no to pretty much 90% of opportunities. I fell into the trap as soon as I finished of saying yes to sort of 90-95% of the opportunities. So in a way, that first month of giving up full-time medicine for a year, I was busier than ever because I could just say yes to everything. So what started out as this sort of, hey, I've got loads of free time, I'm actually working harder than ever, which is a different challenge. But the site's growing well, so we've restructured the site, and even though it may not look like a completely new site, it's a completely different beast. So the website's huge. It's got a lot of stuff under the hood that we're ready to launch. I won't go through the individual stuff because that'll be announced in due course, but we've got a big capacity on the site to deliver more training, to have a bigger resource to many more athletes. I think since we started speaking, since we spoke in Dubai, we had just over 6,000 athletes on there, and we're up to 7,700 subscribed onto the site, which is great.
Wow.
And I'm able to travel a lot more, so I've already done a lot more seminars. They've been a full day, and they've been all oversubscribed and fully booked, which has been great.
Wow.
And one of the other things that we've done recently is to put on a big event, which was a new thing for me, a new thing for our team, and that was a bit of a smash as well. So I think everything is kind of growing nicely. All the metrics are going up, and we have new opportunities flowing through the inbox every week, which is pretty cool. So
Mate,
fantastic.
For those that didn't listen to the show that we recorded initially about sort of RowingWOD and a little bit more about you, just give us and we'll speak, obviously we want to really speak about the event that you did, but give us a little bit more of the vision of RowingWOD and sort of how does it fit into the fitness community, the CrossFit community, and sport as a whole? Great question. So RowingWOD, the acronym WOD, the CrossFitters will know, is workout of the day. The ironic thing is we don't have a workout of the day. We have two sessions a week, but we're getting there. The project started when I was very kindly invited out by a guy called Eric Laukelmer from Weightlifting 101 back in June of 2015 to come and help out some rowing with Sarah Sigmundsdottir, Björn Carl Gudmundsson, Phil Hesketh and Stephen Fawcett as they were headed off to Carson, California for the CrossFit Games. Right. And in 3 days I basically uploaded my brain to them and showed them how to row. And that was really just focusing on one goal, which was to make them better at rowing as part of this long training camp that they had. But then coming away from that, I realized that there was so much more to what I could give to them in the community than just how to get better at rowing. It involved, getting better at rowing as a skilled movement, but also providing a training program to get much fitter. And the skill of rowing I saw, and I'm sort of living it myself in a way, is that it transfers much more to other movements in CrossFit than, let's say, running or cycling. And what I mean by that is that triple extension movement of the rowing stroke. If you develop your aerobic capacity and your fitness, if you like, in that movement pattern, I've found, and lots of my other rowing colleagues have found, that you're pretty good at power cleans, wall balls, box jumps, and what we call more functional movements. So I found myself in a situation where I am better at CrossFit than, let's say, a 1,500 meter runner or a middle distance swimmer, simply because even though we have fantastic aerobic capacities and engines, if you like, we have them built in a plane that's useful. So that was the sort of second
sort of goal for RowingWOD is to highlight that importance. And the third thing, well, it's sort of 3 and 4 perhaps. The third thing is the mental side to it. The beauty of the rowing machine is that you get feedback every stroke and there's no escaping it. And I've found that the mental skills to tolerate the volume of training on the machine, but also to push yourself in racing, is valuable in sport, but also in life. And so I felt like I could add a lot of value to that side of the training. And then for the elite guys, I think, competing at the Olympics and competing at the World Championships, being as part of that, Olympic rowing team for Great Britain, it was by definition the most successful rowing team in the world, and it's one of the most successful Olympic teams in Great Britain. Arguably one of the greatest sporting teams in modern history in Great Britain for the London 2012 Olympics. So much experience there that made me better as a person, and that's why I was able to probably wake up at 4 a.m. for a year,
for sure.
And do a whole medical shift and compartmentalize my time. So I sort of bring that to it as well. And wrapping things up in terms of the vision of RowingWOD, I realized that there's so much more to coaching an individual or coaching groups of people than just making them better at a movement. And so my mission statement with that is really that I believe that every human being is an athlete, and I believe that every athlete should row. And for me, RowingWOD caters to that second part of the statement, which is that every athlete should row. And I think whether you're an elite CrossFitter, Andy Murray, Conor McGregor, the England rugby team, or whoever you are, if you're training on the rowing machine as part of your training repertoire, you're a better athlete. So RowingWOD really caters to that. The first statement is deliberate. I believe everyone is an athlete, because for me that's where my career goals lie in the health sector. And sort of going off into a slight tangent, I got into medicine for a few different reasons, one of which is that I love the human body, I love working with people, I love new challenges, and I love, essentially, in a nutshell, making people healthier and happier and fitter. And so that big first statement for me is the tie-in from RowingWOD into health and into helping a lot of people get better at life. So that's a very long-winded way of explaining what RowingWOD is and the vision behind it, but that's essentially it.
I want to just pick up on two things you said there, mate. The second part of your vision, every athlete should row, and the fourth part of what RowingWOD is there, the mental aspect of it. Obviously, a lot of people understand what you said, or some people will and some people won't, the triple extension movement, the physiological side of rowing and how it can benefit us. I want, in your words, because I say it a lot, but I want to hear it from you, how do you get mentally stronger on a rowing machine?
Yeah, I mean, it's a myth, isn't it? People, I often see on in Instagram and social media all these sort of nonsense things like kill weakness, go hard or go home. All these like quotes in the back with some bloke throwing a barbell around. Yeah, I mean, they don't really mean anything because I think the fallacy that people fall into is they think that mental strength is a given. It's like mental strength is just that thing that you have or you haven't got. Yeah, and so people will naturally get to a point in training or racing where their mind, their sort of chimp brain, their reptile brain starts to go, this is really painful. Yeah. And you have to have that human brain louder than the other two to basically say, I know, but we want to do this. We need to do this. Right. And essentially that can be trained. And I'm a testament to that. I don't think I'm particularly mentally tough. Right. When I was, I don't know, an 11-year-old running around in the garden. But going through an Olympic program, you realize that mental side is trained in the program. Right. And I sort of, it's a whole spectrum, and we could probably have a whole other hour podcast on mental training and mental toughness. But I see it sort of globally as two buckets. The first bucket is the kind of mental skills involved with training, and then the other bucket is the mental skills involved with racing. And they're very different. I think the training is being able to tolerate the boredom, if you like, and being able to put up with things that are just constantly uncomfortable. Yeah. And so I've used that 200 kilometers a week was what the training that we did in the rowing team, and just think about kind of put yourself in that situation now, which is you see the rowing machine go on 20,000 meters, off you go, and I mean, just sitting on a rowing machine for an hour and 15 minutes, and then doing it twice a day, 6 days a week, you can start to see that there's a lot of boredom that might creep in, and there's a lot of feelings of uncomfortable
Not so constantly varied.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's the complete opposite of CrossFit. It's completely specialised. But that skill of being able to endure, essentially, I found crosses over into lots of other things, and I used it in my medical career. It's why I could do a 13-hour shift on my feet with no breaks. I would just live minute by minute and just tolerate, and I could still have, a high level of mental acuity to make, pretty important decisions. So I would say that is a very important skill for life. In terms of the racing bucket, I think you can also coach that. Being able to push yourself beyond what you thought possible is doable, I think, for everyone. And I think one of the ways you can access that is coming back to why you're doing things. I mean, there's a great TED talk by a guy called Simon Sinek, Why We Do Things, which is much more sort of suited to like companies and how they sell and stuff. But as an athlete, why you do things is so important because it's a card you can play when things get really tough. If you and I, let's say, the three of us, we decided to do, 100 burpees for time. 100 burpees for time right now wouldn't really mean anything to us because, okay, maybe I want to beat you and maybe that competitive instinct would come out. But if the three of us started to access why we train, why we want to do this, what goals we have in life, and it can be something so simple as, I want to lose a bit of weight because I want to, look great on my wedding day, and I want, to have great photos and have a lifetime of memories. Or it can be, I want to compete at regionals because, I've seen these people compete on the big stage and I want more for myself. I want to be seen as that athlete. I want to, feel as though I've achieved something. But whatever that goal is, whatever the why is, I think that's an important card that you can play. And so the whole kind of coming full circle again, mental toughness is something that I think you can be taught, but it comes through lots and lots of practice and lots of training.
Does that reflect I mean, obviously, mate, I've been privileged to do sort of 3 different sessions with you in camp format, and obviously sometimes it's just like, you've given us stuff, right, 5 minutes, just maintain 20 strokes, not going super fast, maybe a 155 split, stuff like that. Are those the kind of tools that you're talking about, like just getting on and just going through what generally people would say going through the motions, but all the time with a purpose?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about that is the 2 different things. So one of the things you just said, which is going through the motions. If you arrived at Olympic training, you would see 30 guys, 25 women on a rowing machine looking as though they're going through the motions.
Yes.
And I think that's what's really important to distinguish and tease out, is that what the observer sees and what the athlete is actually doing are 2 very different things.
Right.
So last week I was on a sort of weekend camp thing up in Manchester, and I was very fortunate enough to see Sam Briggs again, and she does exactly that. It was really interesting just running some sessions, and she was there doing some rowing stuff, and she was already doing the things that we do in the rowing team, but for CrossFit, she has this mental toughness that we all know, but she also has the ability to train a lot. And she does that through lots of different mental tricks, which were really interesting to hear about. But yes, what you observe and what you are doing as an athlete are 2 very different things. And as an athlete, what you're doing is you're trying to stay with the right level of mental stimulation, if that makes sense. Concentrating enough so that your speed is correct and your movement is correct, but not concentrating so much that you're thinking, wow, this is hard, I've got another hour to go. It's in a different example, it's almost like Andy Murray on the tennis court. If he thinks about throwing the ball for his serve too much, he'll probably overthink it and he'll fudge it up and lose the point. But if he doesn't think about it and he goes into complete space cadet mode, then he'll equally bugger it up. So it's having that right mental stimulus, that kind of background wavelength of thought, that's really important.
Turning into the rhythm. Just listening to the sound of the wheel, like you used to say, like Marcus, I attended one of your training camps, and you kept saying, just listen to the sound of the wheel, and all of a sudden you're zoned out. You only focus on the strokes, on the rhythm, on moving smoothly.
Absolutely. And I think that can be, so I mean, I'm coming back to CrossFit, into functional fitness and fitness racing and all the kind of varied movements. I use that as well now. So, you know, at Blitz the other day, we did a very simple one part of the workout was a 10-minute EMOM, you know, 50 double unders, off you go. And I was like, well, I'll just do 75. So, I mean, I just did 75 double unders every minute on the minute, 10 minutes. And all I was doing, I was working hard, but I was just breathing, focusing on the rhythm, focusing on the rope going in.
Right.
Round and round and round, and you can do that in whatever you're doing, whether it's pull-ups, whether it's muscle-ups, whether it's, you know, wall balls. Once you hook into that natural metronomic rhythm of the human body, you can unlock almost this kind of energy that wasn't there before. Absolutely.
Incredible. Mate, that's some of the geeky side. We'll freshen it up and mix it up a little bit, maybe with a little bit more of practical stuff, what's going on. Obviously, Andre mentioned, and you alluded to it there, Row London, which was a big event you guys hosted recently. Mate, tell us all about it.
Yeah, so Row London was cool on a lot of different levels. So 12 months ago, I sat down on a piece of paper and I was like, right, what do I want to do with rowing? Let's try and make rowing cool. If I could wave a magic wand, what would be awesome to do? So I've got this sheet still, and I wrote down on there, it would be really cool to get the world's best rowers and the world's best CrossFitters together in a room, throwing down and competing. And I had a little sort of notation on it, which is like, maybe 3 to 5 years time.
So longer term.
Long term. And then so I had this really weird opportunity, and I think so the bigger point is, when people talk about having goals and having visions, I think the reason why we do that is because life is this whole series of random opportunities, whether you like, well, this is my belief based on evidence, that just stuff happens, right? Stuff happens. And, if you go into one of those like kids ball pits, like the coloured balls everywhere, where you got like red, blue, green, all different colours. Yeah. If you're thinking, I want blue balls, blue balls, blue balls, blue balls, you'll start to see that all the balls in there are blue, or you'll start to notice the blue balls, and you'll notice that there are other colours going on, but you notice the blue ones, and you'll be able to go and pick them out. Right. And it's, I think, the same thing with having goals. Like, life is this whole sort of spectrum of stuff that happens, and if you're focusing on your goals and you're focusing on your vision and where you want to get to, you'll notice the stuff that comes up that contributes towards that goal. And the reason for throwing that story out there is because essentially this is what happened. So Whatever It Takes, great company, they're a fitness store that started off in the UK, or fitness brand if you like, and they've now expanded quite aggressively. They've got one in Dubai, they've got one in Hong Kong now, I think they're opening up one in New York, they're about to have a couple more in London, and there's some great team behind them. They got in touch and they said, Cam, we do some pop-up events in the store. We've had Carl Powley down, we've had Brooke Ents, we'd like you. And I was like, well, first of all, that's very flattering. I mean, I don't
big names.
Big names.
In the same regard as them. Michael Jordan, Bill Gates. So I was like, oh, I'm flattered and honoured. That's really nice. What did you have in mind? And they were like, well, let's bring a couple of row machines down. We'll do like a seminar. We'll get people in the store. We'll just talk about rowing. And I was like, awesome, that sounds good. And then I sort of mulled it over and I was like, well, I've kind of had this vision on my radar for a while. Do you reckon we could do this? And the team at InnerFight, at Whatever It Takes, were like, yeah, actually, that's a pretty big event, mate. If you can do it, we're happy to support you, and let's do that. And so the whole thing sort of spiraled. And originally, it was designed to be uniting the fitness and the rowing communities. Right. And what ended up happening was, on the day, we had 14 Olympic medalists from Rio. We had 18 competitive CrossFit athletes or CrossFitters. 14
we had Olympic medalists from Rio
in
one place.
In one place.
In one place. We had 50 athletes were working out in a whole host of different events, and we had on the day probably about 500 or 600 people that walked through Shoreditch to come and stop and say hello and do that. So really, it was just a fantastic day and a fantastic celebration of rowing and fitness, and I think was so important for the sport of rowing in the sense that it showed the rowing machine, it showed people what the rowing machine can do and how much fun it can be rather than how painful it can be. And I think also
so you're cheating people. Do you feel
leading
right
into
about
traps?
I think so. It's interesting because one of the challenges we have in rowing is that rowing is becoming a dated sport in the sense that it's 2K.
Yeah,
it's not the most exciting thing to watch if you don't understand what's going on or if you don't know who the people are in the boat. And so you see that pressure at the Olympics, which is events are always changing. In fact, there's a huge discussion going on at the moment with the IOC to remove all lightweight rowing events from the Olympics.
Right.
To reduce the number of events. So behind the scenes, rowing is facing this change, if you like, where it needs to update itself somehow. And I think that the rowing machine is one of the great ways to do that. Yeah. So I think that served that purpose for Row London. I think the other great thing... You go for it.
Do you think that CrossFit put a spotlight on rowing and really made rowing a bigger deal? Like CrossFit put a big light on weightlifting, that weightlifting is actually not a dangerous sport and everybody can do it. Do you think it did the same with rowing in this case?
I think CrossFit has put a spotlight on movement. I think if you think about how it's come about, we all know it's almost a kind of spectrum where you've got these communities that pursue health and fitness, and then at the top you've got these fantastic, phenomenal athletes that are so proficient at so many movements. And absolutely, so what it's done is it's shone a light on these movements that are so valuable to the human body, lifting and external loads, manipulating your body in three-dimensional space, weightlifting and gymnastics. Rowing, one of the most, I think, and Dave Castro and Glassman seem to think, one of the toughest movements to build your aerobic capacity, and one of the hardest things to do. That's why back, if you look through all the journals, Glassman always talks about, how rowing is so hard and it's so valuable. And I believe that, absolutely. It's one of the most valuable human movements that we are almost losing. And the kind of a brief little history lesson, like we used to row as a form of locomotion, right? We used to go down the rivers and lakes and stuff. And if you ask a room full of people who ran around as a kid, who cycled as a kid, and who rowed, less than 5% of people rowed as children. And I think it's a functional pulling movement that we need to reclaim. So yeah, Andre, I think you're completely spot on. CrossFit has, without a doubt, helped rowing out, and just like it's helped lots of other sports out. And I think what's really important is individuals like me who are in the sport of rowing, and my colleagues and peers can help ride that wave in the sense that amplify it. And do what people like David Durante has been doing for gymnastics, Carl Paoli, Chad Vaughan, Eric Laukellner for weightlifting. Yes, we've got an affiliation in terms of we love the sport of CrossFit, and we love getting CrossFitters and competitive fitness athletes faster at that sport, but we've got another foot in the sports that we love so much.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of powerful stuff encapsulated within that, mate, and it really seems like London was an incredible success, but I sense maybe you've unleashed something that has a lot more power than I thought, and maybe than you thought as well. So the question is, where does it really go from there? Where do you take your 14 Rio Olympic medalists to next on this road trip? How does that work out?
Yeah, well, I think that there's many ways. So that the event was a great success in the sense bringing the two communities together. The most important aspect for me was having the next generation there, the kids from rowing and the kids from CrossFit and fitness. Yeah, the day was amazing, mate. Like they saw all these Olympic medals and these huge Olympians and these athletes that were able to lift loads of different weights and move their bodies in ways they didn't know how, like kettlebell snatches and flying over burpee box jumps. And you're right. For me, that was what I think rowing got out of it. Yeah. I think the fitness world got out of it the fact that they were put on a sort of different stage in the heart of London. Yeah. But for me, the recipe and the ingredients were the important thing. Right. Was essentially that there were a complete variation of demographics uniting for a physical challenge. Right. And actually, we've seen, if you just look at the current climate, that's what's happening the world over. Tough Mudder, Spartan Race, Run Dubai, all these different spinny cycle, all these physical challenges. Essentially, all it is a physical task, a challenge that's there, and anyone can do it. It's accessible. Right. You need to train for it, yes, And it's hard, yes.
Yeah.
But when you've done it, it makes you so much better as a person, and you can take those skills into different facets of life.
Right.
So for me, I think at the moment I'm doing a lot of thinking as to why Row London was a success, what that success means, and what success means in the future for it. And I'm having lots of different discussions with people to try and see how we can do something similar, something more valuable to society, I think, in the sense of inspiring new generations of people to pursue healthier, happy lives, and to shine that spotlight on rowing. So, mate, big plans at the moment. I'm not sure where things will go. We'll be always guided by the community and what is needed and the appetite there. But I think there's a lot of different nuggets to draw on from the event. Excited to see where it goes.
That's obviously one sort of silo to what you're doing, mate, and I'm excited to see where that goes as well, and I'd be excited to see Row, another city as well. I think, you know, all those positives that you spoke of, but it is only really one silo of what you're doing with RowingWOD. Let's dig back down to sort of the listener base that we have, people that want to get better at fitness. How can they interact with RowingWOD? What's available for, I guess, the end user now? People are super inspired by the last half an hour of what you're up to, but how the hell can we use all of this, or where's it available, and what's going on?
Yeah, go for it. So, I mean, so the site is the sort of the feeder for everything. So on there, we have subscriptions, so you get on the site. We have so much content there now. We have 42, 38. We've got over 100, under 100 sessions on the site, all in different sort of program format. The plan with that is to grow that. So whatever your goals are, whether it's just fitness, or you want to compete, or you want to do a 1K, 2K, 5K, whatever it is, you just want to work out to do. Whether it involves a rowing machine, in the future maybe it doesn't even involve the rowing machine, other movements as well. There's a huge library on that site now, so you can sign up and subscribe to our newsletter now for free. You can have a paid subscription there, which gets you access to all of that content. We're going to be putting out more and more content in terms of video demonstrations, drills, exercises, where to start, how to set up your machine, all those sorts of things. They're on there, so you can sign up to the site, www.rowingwod.co.
Sorry, mate. The basic information of sort of how to get started and some rowing programs are on that site, and they're completely free. Is that right? So it's free to sign up to the website. We've actually today is the first time that we've changed that round. So what we found was that so I did a bit of analysis on our website, and people that were signing up for free, they were going through a few sessions and then logging back on relatively infrequently. Right. The people that were on the paid subscription, they were cracking on through all of the training program. Right. So what I've done is we've actually dropped our prices. So now it's £10 a month. You can subscribe as a monthly member or as an annual member, and that gets you access to absolutely all the content, just as you were as a premium member before. Right. So now to get access to our content, you need to be on there as a paid subscriber, which is the price of a few cups of coffee. But what that does is, but what it does is it psychologically pushes you in the direction to come back and do it. Yeah. So if you're paying £10 a month for something, it's more likely that you're going to use it. Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. Like I said, those 7,700 people. Yeah. It's great to have them subscribe. It makes me look good, but I'd like to have 7,700 people doing rowing once or twice a week. Absolutely. So it's £10 a month for the subscription to all the content, but you can sign up to our newsletter just to receive updates for free. Right, cool. But mate, over 100 programs, video demonstrations, coaching, and I guess you have a few bits of feedback and content from your mates that were over in Rio, so it's ever evolving and ever updating as well. Absolutely, I mean that's the plan with it, is to not just be me, this kind of rowing guru. It's to be bigger than me. It's to have I want to unite all of the people that know what to do in fitness and in rowing, to disseminate that content to people that don't know what to do yet. Yeah. So absolutely, it's going to be bigger than just me, mate. Talking about you, last year and even now, you're competing in CrossFit. Talk us through a little bit about that. Okay, so it's one of the reason why I got into CrossFit was essentially because I missed the start line of racing. I missed the camaraderie.
I miss that team atmosphere. So CrossFit was a natural recipe for me after the Olympics, and I love Blitz CrossFit in Twickenham. It's my home gym. It's where I train.
Yeah.
And for me, competing is just fun. It's fun because I like the kind of quiet when the clock's ticking down, 10, 3, 2, 1, go. There's not a care in the world other than the task at hand, and I love that. I like pushing myself in all directions of life, and so competing is one of those. And for me, it also serves as a bit of a higher purpose in the sense that, if I can be a slight bit of inspiration for someone else, then bonus. But also, it's a kind of proof of concept for me that all these things I'm talking about, I can beat games athletes at workouts that don't involve rowing.
Yeah,
and it's
amazing.
because I've built my aerobic capacity in this triple extension movement. So rather than coaching lots of people and spending years, getting them rowing, and then people being like, "Oh, mate, you're right. I'm just going to do it," and show them that actually,
it's possible.
I'm probably not going to get to the games because I've got a 2.10 wingspan, but I can be pretty competitive in the world of CrossFit, even if the workouts don't involve the rowing machine.
Mate, talking about that competitiveness, obviously with the Open coming up next year, you'll compete in the Open, will you?
Yeah, I'll compete in the Open every year, I think.
Do you think? Do you think you'll win the region next year?
Well, mate, I think we'll have to I'll just have to go and have a quiet word with Bjorgvin and Steve and just say, mate.
But I mean, mate,
realistically,
like you said there, in some workouts that are not just rowing workouts, you have the ability to beat games athletes. So surely with what you were saying there, with your competitive edge, with you missing the start line, surely there's got to be a plan for the future. Maybe not to win the Open in Europe, but is there something there, mate, that you're sort of aiming towards?
Regionals, maybe.
I mean, yeah. Obviously, I would have lied. I would lie if I say I haven't thought about trying to get to regionals as either an individual or as a team. But I mean, the practical truth is that with a wingspan of 2.10 meters, that's quite long.
Yes.
Movements like handstand push-ups and the gymnastics movements, even a basic air squat or pull-up is a lot more work done. So without getting the geeky again, work done, 4 times distance, all that jazz. All that means is I just have to be a lot fitter. And the fact that I can beat games athletes in certain CrossFit workouts is testament to the fact that I have big strengths. So, if it's Karen or if it's, 150 wall balls for time or, if it's something that's in that triple extension movement, great. But it also means I have big weaknesses. I'm not very good at the strict gymnastics or even the kip gymnastics compared to them. And as you know, and as everyone knows listening, that in CrossFit workouts and CrossFit competitions, if you have one bad event, in the sense that if 1,000 people in Europe beat you on a handstand push-up workout,
goodbye.
That's you done. So, I mean, I have to negate those, absolutely. But I'm just enjoying seeing where I can go with CrossFit in a competitive sense. And it will never be my full-time passion. I think that to get to, the games, or even I think as an individual at regionals, that needs to be, your main focus. And for me, competing is one of many focuses at the moment. So I'll pursue it. So far it's going all right. We've got a competition coming up at the end of the year called Battle of the Beasts, and I managed to qualify for that in 3rd position, which is great.
Wow.
So I beat a few regional athletes on the way.
How did that first event go? I heard they released a 10K row for the first event that you have to row in your own box.
Yeah. Well, so there was a little bit of bias in the sense that the qualifiers, the first one was a 2K row with death by thrusters in it, so that's obviously in my wheelhouse. But the other 2 workouts had no rowing, and I still did pretty good at those, so qualified in 3rd, which was great. And then, as Andre rightly said, the first workout, I think this is a good thing. They what often happens at single-day competitions is it's basically, we're going to see who's the fittest in wherever. Okay, the workouts are 5 2-minute events. And it's like, well, okay, I mean, you're testing one energy system there. Yeah. So the first event for Battle of the Beasts is a 10K row for time, which obviously I saw and I thought, that's all right. We've got to do that, record it, put it on Facebook, and take a screenshot of your score, and then that's one of the workouts that will be scored on the day. So there's another 5 workouts on the day, so 6 workouts in total.
Average speed per 500 meters on the 10K.
Well, so interesting, right? So it was a lot slower than I thought I could have been. back when I was rowing full time, and yesterday I caught up with all my buddies from Rio, and I told them, and they were like, "Oh, that's all right, mate. I probably could have gone a bit faster, but yes." So to give you a bit of perspective, I think the top guys at the moment are probably doing about a 144 average split.
Wow.
So I did a 142.5 average split for 10k. I spoke to my buddy Mo. So Mo's an Olympic champion in the men's 4. He's also got a 2k of 540 and a 5k of 1453, I think, which is to give you the splits respectively. That's 125 split for his 2k and a 129.3, I think, for his 5k. So I asked him, I was like, "Mo, mate, what do you reckon you could do 10k in?" And so he reckons he could probably do it in a 133, 134 average split.
Wow.
So that's where the top guys in the world are at. And I'm at 142.5 average split.
Incredible. Mate, obviously we talk a lot about competitive side, and it is, if we go back to CrossFit, which is obviously what we share a mutual interest in. We're coming up to that time. It's towards the end of the year, and then we'll have the Open coming up, and a lot of people in gyms around the world will be getting fired up for that. What's your advice, mate, from everything you've seen? Obviously, you've come from an incredible background of so much knowledge and so much great coaching. What's your advice that people could be sort of getting on with now? We have a little bit of time before the Open, 3 or 4 months. What would you say 2 or 3 things that people that listen to the show could take and sort of get involved in their gym to perform better in the Open next year?
Great question. Start now. Work out now. It's a big myth, I think, in CrossFit, this sort of, I think, culture in the, let's call it the sort of 0th percentile to even like 80th, 85th percentile. So like the kind of, not the top people, but the people who want to do the Open and want to kind of climb up the ranks. People are like, "Oh, I need to get a muscle up. Oh, okay, I'll learn a muscle up soon. Oh, I need to get better at gymnastics. Oh, I'll get better at gymnastics soon." And they keep putting things off, and then they find themselves, after Christmas, "Oh, we've got 6 weeks to the Open. I better learn how to do a muscle up." And it's the same sort of mentality if you're cramming for an exam, right? Like you would. It's such a foreign concept to me, because if you work hard and consistently throughout the year, you should actually be tapering for your competition. So when it comes to the Open, you should be doing, well, slightly different. You're doing regionals, but if that's your big goal, you should be slightly tapering off. And really, you've done all the hard work. So the hard work really starts now. I mean, if you're, for me, my big weakness is weightlifting and gymnastics, so I'm doing that. I know, people like Steve Fawcett, Ben Massey, who come to do the JST Compete program. Like, if they need to get a lot more strength, they're getting stronger now.
Right.
You need to be doing the thing that you find the most difficult. And my observation and my guess from what I've seen is that it is your aerobic capacity that needs working on.
Right.
The Open tests that disproportionately more than weightlifting and gymnastics. Because if you ain't fit enough to get to the heavy barbell in that workout we saw Bjorgvin and Dan Bailey do, you ain't doing it. So you need to get fitter now, and it's just mastering the basics. Get your double unders, your box jumps, your burpees, light barbell cycling. I can't stress enough how many bloody people I see doing a heavy snatch twice a week, and then you put 35 kilos on the barbell and they've got to put it down after 10 reps.
It really seems like there's a tendency of people focusing a lot on specific things as getting real good in only gymnastics and getting real good in only weightlifting. I saw that problem with myself, and all of a sudden you find out you can't mix those two, and when you're tired you can't do none of them. So like you said, it's really important.
And I think it's pretty simple in a sense. Like, if you look at the Open, we all know that the Open, the regionals, and the games are very different tests. And for 99% of people, your last official CrossFit competition will be the Open. And if that's what you want to do the best at, then guess what? Maybe have a look at what's come up in the past, because it's a pretty good guide as to what's going to come up in the future, in the sense that, it's unlikely to see, 5 workouts with completely new movements that we haven't seen before. Yes, okay, walking lunge in a few different formats, of course, but light barbell cycling, chest to bar pull-ups, overhead squats, bar muscle-ups, ring muscle-ups, wall balls, all the kind of movements that will probably come up, you should be pretty good at them, and you should be able to do some volume at them as well. But I see people doing, you know, these
ring handstand push-ups,
snatches. Yeah, well, yeah, and doing all these like fancy like ring complexes. You know, I can do a muscle up into 5 dips, into a front lever and a back lever. Like, that's icing. That's icing on the cake, right? I mean, that is the cherry on your cake.
Reverse uprise. Dre's been practicing his reverse uprises, mate. Are you not happy with that skill?
No, but, so Andre's a fantastic athlete, and you're almost there, mate. I mean, that is fun to play around with, and it's great to pull that top end of skill up. Absolutely. But how many unbroken chest to bar pull-ups can you do, Andre?
My best ever is 56.
There you go. So I mean, like that's quite a lot, in my opinion. Obviously, you always want more, but that kind of gives you a bit of a level to understand that Andre's got very good foundations of gymnastics. And so doing a front lever uprise or whatever it is, like, yeah, happy days, mate. Knock yourself out. But if you can't do a strict pull-up, or if you can't do a set of 10 unbroken chest to bar pull-ups, then I think your goal shouldn't be to try and do some sort of uprise. It should be to try and increase that capacity.
Absolutely. Listen, Cam, that's covered so many cool things there, mate. I think super useful as the last time you were on the show, which, mate, is actually almost a year ago since we had you on the show for the first time. I was just looking through the notes. But, mate, we're really happy of what you're doing and to see RowingWOD progress. And I know a lot of our listeners follow you a lot, and a lot of our members follow you a lot. And obviously, Andre and I have been privileged to be coached by you, mate. And everything that you sort of spoken about on the show just fits in with the way that you coach and the way that you live. So we're absolutely stoked that you came back on the show. And mate, I'm sure you've got 1,000,001 things, as you said, popping up. So to take an hour out of your time and chat to us is just awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you guys. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's always. I mean, just to kind of give a little bit of a shout out back to you guys. I think that what you guys are doing at InnerFight, and I know you, Marcus, as well, have many other projects going on. It's great to see, and I think that, you know, people like me look at that on social media and what's happening in the world. And I think, it's nice that there are people that have got drive and hunger, and they want to push, and they want to kind of really make a difference to other people. So, awesome. No, credit to what you guys do over in InnerFight as well, and it's fantastic to see the work that you're doing to inspire others. So, no, credit to you guys.
Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it, and hopefully, mate, we'll for those listeners that are Dubai based, hopefully Cameron will be out here teaching again in the next 6 months. So it's definitely something.
I hope so.
A seminar that you need to get
excited.
On. Mate,
get excited.
Get excited. Dre says it the best.
Let's go.
There we go. Awesome. Thanks a lot for your time, Cam. We appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
So there we have it, mate. 45 minutes of wow.
Yeah.
Guy knows what's up.
Definitely.
What do you think, mate? You want someone to listen to that? Sell it to me.
A guy who has a vision to make the world better in sense of sports, in sense of community, in sense of growing global health through movement. In this case, example through rowing. Yeah. Like amazing vision for his brand,
isn't it? It's unreal. And passion as well, mate.
You can feel it.
You can feel it, right? When he speaks, we literally asked him a couple of questions, and he just speaks for 40 minutes on something that he just loves, right?
The only thing we said was, wow, amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
And what's funny as well, like, I guess when you're younger and I'm going to be a doctor, and he studied for years and years and years to be a doctor, and then he just, no, my passion is rowing. I've done this doctor thing. I'm out.
Yeah.
And he covered that up in a certain way by saying he's still a doctor, and it's not over. Yeah. But do you ever see him going back to a doctor's job 80 hours a week, mate?
No. There's too many opportunities here, too much. Yeah, he can really change the world through this.
Yeah.
Has a huge impact on a lot of people, way more than he could ever have being a doctor, I would say.
There we go. Mate, incredible. We've been asking people, mate, to rate the podcast, to leave a review in reward for a bag of Smith Street Paleo balls. Win-win. We've had a few people do it. Few people have rated the podcast. We want some reviews, obviously. Want them to write some text. And, mate, you eat a lot of those Smith Street Paleo balls. A goodie bag full is definitely worth it, isn't it? Or should we up the stakes?
Indeed.
It's enough, eh?
It's enough.
They should do it. Dre, another good podcast. We've got some more good guests coming up. Yeah. And of course, mate, our Fitness in Under 3 Minutes. That's a new feature that's just launched.
Check it out. It's going to be real good.
It's really good. Awesome. Thanks, mate.